Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Mental Toughness and Body Show. Well, I have a tremendous guest with me here today. This is Sandra, as her name in the bottom says, Sandra Fitzgerald. Now, Sandra and I have known each other for about 18 years because we met when I first, well, we both first studied Certificate 3 and 4 in fitness back in 2007. And at the time that I can still remember the very first class, and I don't know how many people were in it, well, about a dozen or so.
Yeah, about 12, I think. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
12,
At the
15.
YMCA.
Yeah. And by the end, there's not 12 left. And I can just remember the first conversation we had, and I'm like, oh, gee, this is somebody that's really passionate about what it is they're
Yeah,
doing. Because
really.
there were people that were there that were, you remember, they were just like, I don't know, their parents paid for it. They were young and they were like, yeah, these people aren't going to stick with it or do anything with it beyond it. But yeah, we just had this, I think, instant connection. Now we go 18 years later, and we've stayed connected, not as probably as connected as we have in the last 2 years. And the reason that I have Sandra on here is because obviously I've worked with people all around the world, but my most trusted person in the space of health and fitness in the world is this woman right here, Sandra, because of all the conversations that we've had around health and fitness, we're very much aligned. And I thought, what Sandra's going to be a regular guest. She may not know that yet, but she's going to be a regular guest. And I think what's really important is to get, we're the same age, pretty much. I know you're a year younger, but to get a female's perspective in this space, because we're living in an age where it's very different to when you and I both grew up for health and fitness. And I think it's just really important on this show to have a female voice that has a strong identity, very authentic, and is just really passionate in this space of health and wellness and what that looks like. This is probably the longest introduction that I've ever done to a podcast guest, but she deserves it. Sandra, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me along. It's very exciting.
So
Thank you.
Sandra is also a co-collaborator in the 1% Edge, the new magazine.
Yeah.
We've done the very first episode, the very first edition for August. Sandra has been heavily involved with the September one. I'm going to release it on the first Monday in September. I don't know whether it actually is the first, but whatever the Monday is. And today we're going to dig deeper on a particular article that Sandra has written, which is around what's the right size, because we get so caught up in health, fitness, how we feel about ourselves and everything around what is the right size for us. So, Sandra, why don't we start there? Tell us about what was, because I just gave you freedom to say, hey, we want to write an article, and this is the one that she wrote. And she is also a published author as well. So tell us why you picked this particular topic, and we'll go from there.
But something I feel really passionate about. I mean, there's so much influence and there's so much, well, I'm going to use the word fraudulent, it's probably a bit harsh, but there's so much fake influence that, especially now with the whole AI that's coming through, it's really deceptive. And I feel overwhelmed. And it's hard to know what is authentic and what is real and what's good advice and what's bad advice. I mean, you get people on there with their perfect complexions and the filters and the cap teeth and the fake tans, and they're all telling you how they, I don't know, stopped drinking water for 3 weeks and they had, that was good for them, when we know that it's just not reality. This is not true. I'm just I want to bring authenticity back into the real world. There's so much deception and so many people that are involved for the wrong reasons. They want it for their own worth instead of the worth of everybody else. And that's something I'm really, really passionate about.
I think, well, you and I, when was it? In March, we went to the fitness expo here
Yes.
in Melbourne.
Mm.
Um, the
Amazing.
biggest heap of crap I continue to go through. I took Sandra this year because I thought, is it just me, or maybe we could just go and have a good laugh together? But I think now, to be fair, it's called a fitness expo. It should be a health and fitness expo. But my takeaway, if you were wanting to get started into fitness and you went into that expo, you would walk away very confused, thinking,
Yeah.
oh, right, so the only way to get there is to buy a heap of supplements
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
push yourself so ridiculously hard in unrealistic for everyday people type of exercise. Think CrossFit for listeners, and like doing things as fast as you can. We're standing there watching people do slam balls and things with the most
Oh,
atrocious form. They've got taped up back, shoulders, knees, all that kind of stuff. Or if you turn to the corner of the fitness expo, they're standing on stage. And if you're a woman, you're wearing a sequined thong, looking like you're somewhere between orange and green and black. And you think that you're looking super skinny on stage and you're thinking, yeah, that's what I aspire to be.
but for me, also on top of all that is the overwhelming confusion of you got to get that brand or that brand or that brand, or there's just so much. It's just over. But also with the people that were hosting these events, in the back area where that CrossFit kind of setup was, they had personal trainers that were supposedly
Yeah.
helping people, and they were so disinterested. I mean, there was one person literally kind of just looking around, and I just thought, this person in front of you, they're going to hurt themselves,
Yeah, they're wrong form. Yeah.
the lack of interest. And it's just, that was a real shame for me, other than the orange people to the side.
So I think the word health is really missing, isn't it? And I talked on this show quite a lot about how this has changed for me over time. When I started training in 1988, it was about my body.
Yeah.
Like I'm 19 years of age, somebody had just threatened to kill me. I'm a short guy and I was determined to build muscle so I felt confident and physically strong enough. If somebody threatened to kill me again like that, I would put them on the floor. And then when I went and joined the gym like 2 days later after that, and there was the guy that I didn't know at the time, but the owner, he was into steroids and everything. He had the most massive muscles and he wasn't very tall. I thought, if I look like that, no one's bullying me. And
Mm.
that's what I wanted, right? And then as now, being, 56, 57, I think about health being different. I think about energy. I think about being pain free. I still think about having a lean and muscular body for, the best version that I can have at my age. And those things are really important. I think about my heart health. I think about all those other things. I start to also think about dementia and Alzheimer's because it's on both sides of my family. But I know that strength training helps with that as well. So, yes, something might take me that's genetic, but I'm going to put myself in the best possible place. And it's all realistic. If it's not sustainable, I don't do it.
I think the other thing is, it has to be achievable, and it has to be more than just a fashion statement. It has to be a lifestyle change that you are happy to make. It can't be something that's jarring. It can't be something that you feel forced into, because I don't think you can sustain it. You can fake it for a period of time. I give you 6 months. Most people can fake something for 6 months, and then you hit a wall. I think this kind of change needs to be something that is a choice and something that you can make, and is kind to your body and kind to your mentality. It has to be something that you can keep doing and ongoing, like a part of your life.
So let's go to you being a mom and go back a few years and you can talk about your transition to where you are now. We can talk about menopause and stuff. Where I mean, we can talk about that in a whole other episode. But you mentioned influencers before, and what
Mm.
really frustrates me is where I see these female influencers that show and you don't always know the timeline, but you see the glamour pregnant belly, right?
Oh,
You see that, and then you see them in a bikini, right? Like the before and the after. It's like, okay, that's probably offensive to most women that want to get their bodies back, and that might be good for you. And then, I mean, I won't name the person that I'm particularly thinking about here, but it's an Australian influencer, and has had a lot of work done on their face and above the waist, let's just say. And so I just think about you're losing authenticity and you're creating something that, like you said just there before, achievable, unrealistic. Now, there might be a small percentage of people that want that, but most people just want to live a healthy lifestyle. And we know that about 70% of the Australian population is either overweight or obese. People don't want, they're not thinking six pack. They're thinking perhaps
Yeah.
not energy. They just want to maybe look a little bit better and have energy to run around with the kids and so forth. But maybe give us your perspective on what it was like for you, like pre-pregnancy. I'm not sure when you started like your training and everything, but pre-pregnancy, going through pregnancy, trying to reclaim your body, how you process that into where you are now.
Okay, so pre-pregnancy was interesting, first time round especially. My first son is actually IVF, so that was a journey within itself. And the challenging part there is that back then he's 25 now, but then there was a lot of like urine treatments I had to, like samples and tests I had to run. I had to give myself injections every day, so it was actually quite time consuming. So that dictated a big part of my life. Having all this influx of hormone surging through my body was just like wearing a straitjacket all the time. So that was challenging, and as well. Um, so for me, I really enjoyed being pregnant. I craved healthier foods, spicy foods, and but I suppose because we worked so hard to get to that point, I really enjoyed being pregnant. But I was
So
very
you
mindful.
were exercising before?
Yeah, I was exercising before, probably not to the point of when I became when I entered into the fitness industry.
Yeah.
But I was always active. I played a lot of sport. I went to the gym. I was always moving, always very busy. It's part of my upbringing. We're very much doers.
Yeah.
um, so that was something I carried on, more so in my second pregnancy, because I was more self-aware, um, and the impact of being pregnant on your body, because it does have quite a big impact on your body. But I think the biggest takeaway, I think, for the girls these days who are going through it is kindness. Be kind to
What
yourself.
kindness
Kindness. Be kind
and
to yourself.
patience.
Patient. What I did with both my pregnancies is I gave myself a year. My
Yeah.
timeline to get back into shape was 12 months. There was a couple of reasons for this, because I breastfed. That was really important. I don't know if people realize that when you're pregnant, your body releases a hormone which allows your ligaments to soften and supple and be maneuverable. So your pelvis opens for childbirth. So it has this extra flexibility. But when you breastfeed, this hormone is still released into your body. So your joints are still quite supple, and the rate of injury obviously increases. So if you are so determined to get back that bikini body within weeks, the risk of injury elevates quite exponentially. So I think one thing is to be mindful of what your body is actually saying to you, and be kind to your body. Who cares if it takes a year? The growth that you will have post year is going to be a lot kinder and a lot more longevity than when you sort of push your boundaries and start creating all these little sort of microscopic tears and all these injuries that you're building up to greater injuries, if that makes sense. Be kind, allow your body to do its job. I think that's the other thing we forget too, Rob, is our bodies actually have a job to do. Our
Yeah.
bodies are doing a job, and even though we can't see it on the surface, there's a lot going on underneath. I actually always thought it would be interesting. You know how you can take an X-ray. I'm digressing, I apologize, but you know how you can take an X-ray of a bone and you see it, and there's your little knobby bit, your straight bit, and your inferior condyle, so your knobby bits, right? Like the Flintstones, huh? Wouldn't it be interesting, right, if we could take a image of our sagittal plane? So if we could cut ourselves down the front and open ourselves up like a book, and then
Mm.
inside that you could see everything that was actually happening inside our bodies. Where
As it
the
was happening. Mm.
Correct, like where the body fat is being distributed, where your heart's at, where all your tummy is. And I think it would be so interesting, and how I wonder how we would treat our bodies if
Yeah.
we could actually see what was happening on the inside of our bodies.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And
Yeah.
and also your body obviously changes with pregnancy as
Mm.
well. So you could come back. Some people I know had the clients that I've worked with, they come back and they like their body more after they've finished having their children because they wanted like bigger hips or, whatever. Um, and I think it's hard for a man to relate to because they never lose control of their body through this process. They just lose lack of sleep and all that kind of stuff. Um,
I think the
the,
other thing for younger girls is too, I hear a lot of girls like pre-pregnancy, like that stage before, is they're very hard on their bodies. We're too hippie. How do I lose the weight from around my middle? How do I lose that? And again, like I was saying before, our bodies do have certain jobs that it's made to do. It's just part of evolution. And one of these jobs, which I've mentioned so many times to these beautiful young women, is that we've got these blockers which sit through women's hips. I'm doing this, but all you can see my elbows going up and down. You have these blockers which sit through your hips, and the job of these blockers is actually to retain body fat, and that gives you women that more curvaceous kind of shape.
mm.
It is to contain body fat around our hip area and around our glutes. That's what these blockers are meant to do, and that is for when we are pregnant, to help protect the fetus in vitro. So to help protect the body, so the body can grow a baby in a healthy way. And I think we need to, again, that comes back to this kindness. Be kind to yourself. Allow your body to be able to do its job that it was actually made to do. Women are meant to have hips. We're meant to carry a little bit of tummy fat. That's what we're made to do. So to be so hard on ourselves to not allow our bodies to do their job is really, it's a shame. It's actually quite detrimental to growth as well.
Yeah, which is why I come back to the definition of health. If you're really clear on that, looking like aesthetically a certain way, that's one element.
Yeah.
But like the scales to me don't matter. I might weigh myself once or twice a year. That's it.
I
Because
don't have scales.
I've got too many other things that I'm measuring. And with the health side of it, well, I have the annual, the blood test,
Yeah.
what's the one that I recently had, the bowel screening
Oh,
test.
yeah. Yes, well done.
You're doing all of those sorts of things, but also the energy, which, like if I've got lots of energy, then I know I'm living my good life. If I can be focused, then I know that is also something that's
Yeah.
rewarding. Like it's a byproduct of the fuel I'm putting in, the steps I'm taking, the strength training that I'm doing, all that kind of stuff. It all adds up to a better quality of health for me.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
And I think this is what happens with, like women after they have their kids. They're not thinking, I'm generalizing here, but thinking more about, okay, this is the look that I want, as opposed to how healthy do I want to be for my baby, like for if you're breastfeeding and so forth. And then they might be focused there because they're like, oh, well, I've got a client at the moment, actually, an old friend. She's pregnant and the child is lactose intolerant. So
Oh my goodness.
she's had to remove everything from her eating because the baby's been getting sick. And so I think about it at that point, perhaps for the baby, but then once the breastfeeding stops, things can go out the window.
What hope do women have? And this is what we were sort of touching on earlier. What hope do women have primarily? It's starting to happen with men more, but what hope does a woman have when the first thing she does is open her phone and there's all these images? And
Yeah.
these images, they're not even real. There's an image going around at the moment where there's a beautiful young woman who's doing a photo shoot in some sportswear, and they're putting these fake bottom pads
Oh
on.
yeah, in under
I'm like, under
her
the
pants.
legs.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
real. Yeah.
what hope does this? I mean, your body has just done this most amazing task, right? You've recreated, you've become pregnant, so you've got this embryo that's growing inside of you. You've nurtured it, you've fed it, you've birthed this beautiful, beautiful thing. Your body has just done this most amazing, amazing task. It's this journey it's gone on in itself, and then all of a sudden it's slammed with these brutal realities that you're not good enough now, or you're not right enough, or you shouldn't look like that, or your body's letting you down, when in actuality, your body is being perfectly, wonderfully itself and as it should be. Kindness. I think it comes back to just getting off the screens and being kind to yourself. Education.
So maybe as we could go down that menopause track, maybe we'll do that another time because I think where we're heading here makes sense. So if we may perhaps talk about, you can refer to your own experience if you like or what you see, but I'm thinking about self-confidence
100%.
and your own self-worth as you're going through this process, or it could be years later. Like we all have different challenges in
One
our life.
thing, sorry, Robbie, I'll cut you off. One thing a man will never appreciate is the post-birth belly. And I don't think I've ever heard a woman talk about it either. There is just something not quite like it. So you've been stretched out. So I remember when I first was hitting like that 8 month mark, I went to squeeze in between two chairs. We were at a restaurant and there was these long tables and I've seen a gap. And I thought, okay, I'll just go through the gap. I was going to the bathroom or something. I'm pregnant, so I'm always in the bathroom. So I've gone down these between and I got stuck. I got stuck because I didn't account for the size of my stomach. It was just like, oh, I'm not going to fit through
Have
there.
you got the fire department out with the jaws of life?
That's right. So your stomach's been stretched out, and obviously your organs have all been shifted into different directions because we've had to make room for the baby. So once you've had the baby and you're feeling euphoric because you've got all these happy hormones, floating around your body to mask how, wonderfully excruciating the whole process was, your tummy, it's something else. It is like this gushy, smushy, the Homer Simpson bit where he's put
Yeah.
on, there's like, it is something else. And as much as it is surreal and it is bizarre, it is not a nice thing to feel. It is just such an odd sort of experience. And again, all of a sudden you think, okay, that just is not okay. That doesn't look okay to me. That doesn't feel okay. So all of a sudden, my tummy hasn't bounced back like they said it was going to be. It takes a while for that. It's not uncommon to still look pregnant after you've had the baby for a period of time because your stomach has just changed shape. Your uterus has changed shape. So a lot of women are actually aware of this. So they step into this kind of blindly, and it's quite jarring. It feels a bit icky to have that kind of loose, kind of spongy
So
feeling.
how do you go about bringing back your, I suppose, one, there's
Time.
confidence in your body.
Yeah,
There's like functionally the confidence in your body. There's the self-image part of it as well, and your self-worth.
yeah. I think, again, it comes down to kindness. Give it time. It takes time. Your body is doing this magnificent job, this wonderful job of doing what it is meant to do. And we need to appreciate that it is so busy that you've got to give it time. Give it time for it to, all that stuff that you can't see that's going on. We need time for it to settle down and, get back into its normal place to start off with. And
Mm.
then the joints being less supple like they were, and just being kind to yourself. You don't need to be, a swimsuit model the minute you step out of the birthing suite. You're not expected to be, even more so. I think that's really important. And don't put that pressure on yourself to be, because that's when the eating starts getting into it. You've got to still eat the extra calories if you're breastfeeding, because your body needs it to produce healthy milk for the baby. So you got to be really kind to yourself and be mindful that this is simply going to take as long as it takes. If it takes a year, you know what? It's okay. It's
So
okay.
I think that's a really solid advice. Like 12 months is like it just takes some pressure off. Like just you can probably get through, most people get through breastfeeding by that stage, reclaim your body, get into a better routine with sleep and all that kind of stuff, because sleep deprivation is a killer. Let's now go to, I will say, you're now in your, say, 30s, or let's go 30s to 50s even. And coming back to your article about what is the right size kind of thing. So I'm not talking about pregnancy now, even though you could be pregnant in the 30s and stuff, but let's not have that
Yeah.
as a discussion. What's your perspective on that?
We're not one size fits all. People come in many wonderful shapes and forms and sizes, um, and that's okay as well. We don't all have to look like, Elle Macpherson or whomever is on trend these days for you youngsters, but we're not one size fits all.
Do you know what she's doing now? I've got no idea.
Elle Macpherson, she has a health range out. She has a supplement range and a skincare range, and she looks and is amazing. But she actually went down a journey as well, where she was not feeling in control of her body as well because of a hormonal change, which again is very human of her and very human of us all. Um, and because of this, she has educated herself on how what her body needs, and it is what her body needs. It's not what my body needs that's going to work for her. And I think this is the biggest takeaway, that we have to learn and listen to our own bodies so we can work to what our own bodies need. Because what works for Elle, who's probably nearly 6 foot tall, is not going to work for me, who has a European background and is 5 foot in the morning. You know what I mean? My body works differently. So we have to be in tune enough, and again, kind enough. I've said that about 3,000 times already, to listen to what our bodies are actually telling us for what our bodies need. You know, your body needs are different to my body needs, and that's just a general give and take. But when you add hormones, fluctuation, fluid retention, geez, just running after the kids, even I would be sort of moving on from that. But lifestyle, you know, when you add all these other elements, we just need to take a minute to really stay in tune with what our own needs are. You know, when you open up, I suppose that was probably the influence for the article, that everybody is so right on social media. Everybody is so right that there is no wrong. But how do you measure up to all that right? How do
Yeah,
you
that's
keep
right.
up with all that right? It's impossible. And then you set yourself up for failure. You
Yeah,
can't
that's right.
you
That's
can't
right. Because there is so much social media out there saying you're not living your life the right way right now. You need to do it this way. And then you'll scroll to another thing. It's like, you're
hang on.
not living your life the right way. You need
Yeah.
to do it this way, plus this way as well. And it's like, well, hang on, which one do I do? That's only
And you
two.
need to buy this product while you do it,
Yeah,
because
that's right.
without this product, you're not going to get there.
Yeah, that's right.
And this is where, you know, I have those little rules that I've kind of tagged in at the end of the article saying, you know, just to keep it simple. It doesn't need to be extravagant. And if I have to explain what I'm buying from a grocery store to my nana, should I really be buying it in the first place? You know, we've got all these fancy packaging with all this beautiful buy me now labeling, but should you be consuming it in the first place? You know, there's so many additives. How many times does someone come into contact with it before it's actually made it to the shelf? You know,
Yeah.
these are little things that can make big differences, you know, little things. You know, we've got this mentality that we have to shred our life apart and make all these jarring changes to make it, you know, make us healthy and acceptable and likable, when the reality is the opposite. Is so the opposite. Just these, like, if you are trying to tailor your eating and you're struggling, why not try and change one thing out of your diet every week? Why do you have to change everything all at once? Why
Yeah.
not say, okay, I'm not going to be buying the 7-Eleven slushies anymore? Because they're addictive, right? The sugar content in them is so addictive that to remove that one thing is actually far more challenging than what people sort of give themselves credit for. So let's work on removing that. And then,
Mm.
you know, we'll worry about that. Having coffee, when you're obese or morbidly obese, not having coffee in your diet is the least of your issues. There's far more important things to focus on than worrying about taking the coffee out of your diet, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The There's some really great points there. I do want to talk about what the typical day in health, wellness, food and stuff looks like for you. But I know that like you've just started to incorporate a couple of things back into your life, because I mean life happens and we let things slip, don't we? And so I wanted to first of all, maybe I want to talk to get you to talk about your own personal experience. So let's just take the walking to start with. And so you've come from obviously you're not working in the fitness industry at the moment, apart from the work you're doing with me here.
Yeah.
But you went from being into a regular routine to just with your work taking you out of that routine and now
Mhm.
getting back into it. And I know I've been gently suggesting a few things for you, knowing what the benefits would be, but you've got to kind of lead the horse and say, okay, it's now up to you, horsey. And so tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about how that has made you feel just on the walking side of it.
You know, the really interesting thing is walking is actually quite cathartic, and I think it's underrated because everyone can do it, and it's easy. You know, you can just it is easy. I know everyone's like, oh, it's not that easy, but it is. You can just leave the house and off you go. It doesn't have to be for an hour. It can be for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Start
It doesn't have
small,
to be
build it up.
running either. It could just be a walk,
You
slow
just
pace.
yeah,
Mm.
put your headphones on, listen to your favorite podcast
Podcast.
our
Mm.
podcast and just tune out. I think sometimes exercise is also about getting your brain to turn off, and I think that's where one of the greatest health benefits come from. Just getting that brain to slow down and getting it to turn off, get off the screens, get out of the office, get it, tell that little voice saying, okay, I hear what you're trying to do, but we don't have time for that right now. Right now we just need to focus on being simple. Let's focus on being kind to ourselves. And I think that was what walking did for me. It stopped the little rampant voices saying that I need to be this superhuman, that I need to work full time, and I need to be a mum full time, and I need to clean the house, and I need to maintain the art, and it just slowed it all down and helped give me some perspective again. That was really important to me.
I remember you and I had a phone call. I don't know whether you remember it. And you said, "Oh, I'm just feeling really great." And I said, "Oh, that's fantastic."
Was it unusual you remembered it?
I said, "Well, why do you think that is?"
Mm,
And you said, "I think it's because of the walking.
mm,
Just getting out in like out in nature, away from the artificial light, like we're surrounded by right now." And yeah, that was like it's really cool. And I know that now that's something that you do regularly. I do it every day
yeah.
because I know what it does for me. Now I know also just recently, after a little bit more seed planting, you've started doing your strength training again. So tell me about how that has felt.
Um, that has that has been amazing to me. Something it was always I had to figure out what was blocking me because there was something blocking me. Now back like not that long ago, I would get up in the morning, I would go to the gym. It was part of myself, as part of my DNA. It's something I never even thought twice of doing. But then life did that thing that life does, and it took me away from that. So I had to kind of work out why I had that, change in association to going to the gym, and
Mm.
that took some time. And I had to allow myself to reflect and own that reasoning. And I think since I've done that, that has taken the pressure of actually doing it. The other thing for me is because I have got the fitness background, is I felt like a failure. I felt like a big old frumpy, dimply failure. I felt like, how embarrassing is this for me to go back into the gym where there are people, and I've let myself go so badly. I had to get that was Herculean, to get over that mental block. I mean, it's not the reality. The reality is that everyone's there for themselves, and no one's even looking at me or you, or they might look at you, Rob, but no one else is looking at anybody else. They're busy on their own journey. But for me, I think because of my background, and because I was so fit and I was so proud of how fit I was. I used to run 15, kilometers and 10 kilometers and go to the gym, 5, 6 times a week. And I was very active and I was really proud of how fit I was. And then I wasn't. So
Mm.
that feeling of failure was something else to get over as well.
Yeah, and well, I think what you said there about taking ownership of it is really important because I hear a lot of people that blame, oh, well, it's the kids or it's the partner or it's circumstance or whatever. And what I generally find is those types of excuses show up in other parts of people's life as
Yeah.
well. It's
Look,
not, mm,
life is complicated, and that's valid. Now that I'm not in the fitness industry, I do find it a lot more challenging. Not necessarily find the time, that's an excuse. You make time for what's important, but
mm,
it's also about the energy. My energy is zapped a lot of the days. So it is a huge effort to actually to get there. So I do hear what people are saying, to have that energy and that drive and that self-motivation to go. But there's the kicker, and this is a part you know already, is that once you take that first step and you start feeling so much better in yourself, that you create more energy.
Yeah.
It's that catch 22, you know? And the most frustrating part for me is that most people, it's like 27, 30%. It's like it's quite a like almost a third of people go to the gym for 2 weeks and they stop, then they stop. But you and I know that once you go for 2 weeks, that's when change is already starting to happen. And that's when all the delayed onset muscle soreness starts to get under control a little bit. So they stop going to the gym because they feel like it's so hard or I'm so sore. And they stop at that 2 week mark. But if they had kept going for that third or fourth week, they would have noticed that difference already starting to happen, and that's the shame of it.
Yeah, that's right. And I think I mean, this is the value in obviously having a coach that supports you. And the industry is very different now,
Yeah.
fortunately in a bad way. But that person that's going to set you up with something that's healthy and realistic, to nurture you through those sticking points. Most of my clients have never stepped into the gym and don't want to be in a gym
Yeah.
because it's intimidating and all that kind of stuff. And there's no, people are basically giving people programs that they do for themselves.
Yeah, and that's that guidance. I mean, I've seen you train. I know how much care and how much attention you take, with the people that you train. There's so often I've gone into places where I've seen people with trainers, and again, the care isn't there, the authenticity isn't there. So the motivation lacks. But again, once you start moving, once you get that oxygen flowing through your body, that's when the magic's already starting to happen. That's when the good stuff's starting to happen. It's exciting. It's great.
That's right. You got to hang in there, don't you? I'm just going to
Yeah.
ask a couple more questions. Do you want to
Okay.
tell, only share what you'd like to share, but like a typical day of, so, say your routine, your health and wellness routine, food, etc.
Um, Okay, food-wise, look, I'm all about not robbing your body of everything that associates as good. So I grew up 60s. That sounds horrible, doesn't it? A long time ago. But I'm a 70s kid. I remember the first McDonald's stores. You would remember the first McDonald's stores.
Like you, I was brought up in Bendigo, and I remember when like they had it in Melbourne. We got it like 5 or 10 years after they had McDonald's in Melbourne, and there was one in Bendigo, just one.
So we were in the suburbs in Melbourne, and I remember the stores all popping up everywhere. And all of a sudden, that was your reward. Okay, you did
Still
something.
is
You went
for a lot
to
of sporting clubs for kids.
correct. So what happens here is that we're training the brain to associate um, awarding or doing well with eating junk food. So
Mm.
all of a sudden, if you remove that reward from your system completely, your body after a period of time is going to think, hang on, this isn't fair. Where's my reward? Where's my joy? I've done a lot of work. I've made all this happen. Where's my reward? So for me, again, taking that slightly kinder approach, I don't remove everything that I associate is good. I will have my chocolate if I want to have that piece of chocolate. I'll try not to have the bar of chocolate, but I'll have that piece of chocolate because I know if I don't, down the line, a week later or what have you, I'm going to binge on that chocolate. So I try to keep my diet as balanced as I can. I can keep it as clean as I can. I use an air fryer. Best thing since sliced bread, I believe. Chicken breasts on the air fryer, no fat, no skin. That's all leg day, and they're chef's kiss. So I try to keep it as fresh as I can, as clean as I can, and I do still give myself the cheat day. So if we're going out for dinner, I will enjoy my dinner. But I pull my head in. You don't get a cheat week. You get a cheap meal and you enjoy it and allow yourself. Don't have guilt associated to that meal. If you want to go out and have your Indian meal, go and enjoy that. And but the next day just reset, clean it up again, and just keep it as clean as you can. Again, like what I said before, I try to eat stuff that my nana would know what it is. So oats, fruits, whole foods, and minimal sort of fats, you know, but I'll have my protein. I try to have protein with every meal. And I try to have protein first because I know that's what fills my stomach up, and I know what helps make me stronger and healthier. And walking, I do walk every day, and getting back into the moving into the gym, which is really important too.
Yeah, nice, nice. I'm going to ask you one more question
Should I be nervous?
in a second. Maybe some guests struggle with this
Oh, no.
because I'm going to give you the closing word in a moment. So I
Oh dear.
that question. So I want to thank you for today. This has been really great. We'll work out what our next topic is of conversation. It's always great to connect with you and talk health, fitness, what's going on at the moment. You are my go-to person. So thank you so much for joining on your first podcast
I
episode,
know, very exciting.
Mental Toughness and Body Show. So I'm going to give you the closing word. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Oh my goodness. Gee, you could have worded me up beforehand, Robbie. Could have given me some
Just that
time.
one on you.
The best advice I've ever received, own it. Own it. So don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to get things wrong. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to, find the takeaway in what you get, what you struggle with. Own it and be okay with it. I think that's really a healthy way to go.
Brilliant. Well spoken. All right. Thank you, Sandra. We will see you next time.
Thanks, Robbie. You have a great day.
Thank you.